Good evening, everybody. So, in this video, I'm going to talk about Ben Simmons and how the Philadelphia 76ers are holding him back. So it is very fun for people to dump on Ben Simmons, only talk about his inability to hit a jumper and, belittle him. However, I have a ton of sympathy for him, and I kind of want to look at it from another angle. I believe that the Philadelphia 76ers are holding him back from being great, and I will explain in this video how. Now, Ben Simmons was rightfully the first overall pick in the 2016 NBA draft out of LSU. Don't let any Celtics fans tell you Jaylen Brown is better. That is ridiculous. Jaylen Brown is not better than Ben Simmons, okay? That is ridiculous, okay? I mean, literally, that's just, come on, Celtics fans, use your brains. Bostonians and Boston fans can be so toxic when it comes to all their teams. The Red Sox, Bruins, Patriots, Celtics. Ugh. So Ben Simmons was rightfully the first pick. And he does so many things well. He has world-class passing. He is an elite defender. His athleticism is off the charts. He can score. He has a million things well. Unfortunately, one thing he cannot do is shoot. And unfortunately, because of Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors making this a soft jump shooting league, that unfortunately matters. And what has happened in the two playoffs Ben Simmons has had. You can absolutely say that if Ben Simmons had just even a mediocre jump shot, the Sixers might have been in the last two NBA Finals, and they might stand here today as NBA champions. And you can make that argument. But I don't really know how much you can hold Ben Simmons accountable, because, here's how his not being able to shoot has hurt them. Is teams are just able to build a fucking brick wall, the way the Raptors did in the Eastern Conference Finals against Giannis, who also they beat the Sixers in the semifinals. And that just, hurts Ben being able to take his jump shots inside the paint and layups and dunks. He has to try and shoot from the perimeter, shoot from three, and shoot from mid-range. And yeah, that ain't... In this, now, I think Ben Simmons is trying to work on it. He worked on it all off-season, but, at some point, can someone just become a good shooter? Because, that's literally a question I have. Can literally someone who can't shoot be a good shooter? I don't know. Now, there's been a lot of debate whether the Sixers should trade Embiid or Simmons. I think if they were to... And can the Sixers win with that duo? I think the Sixers can win a championship, a NBA championship, with the duo of Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. If you put the right pieces around. The problem is, as I'm going to get to in this video, that's not what the Sixers have done. Just as a side note, if I was to trade one of them, I would trade Embiid, and I'll probably do a video explaining why. So, the 76ers, after doing the process, which is, in 2017-18, people actually finally saw that the process was not just a bunch of baloney, and that, Sam Hinkie actually had a plan, and they saw why the process was a thing, when the Sixers made it to the second round of the second round of the Eastern playoffs. Now, what happened is they lost to the Boston Celtics without Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward, which, in hindsight, that was maybe the worst thing that could have happened to Boston for the 2018-19 season. But, so, anyway, after LeBron left Cleveland for the Lakers, basically everyone just put the Celtics in the NBA Finals. There's an extreme media bias towards the Boston teams in the media, especially the Red Sox and Celtics and Patriots. Not so much the Bruins, because most media outlets, especially ESPN, try and pretend hockey does not exist. And the Red Sox are one of the only MLB teams that would get consistent coverage. You know, but the media has been so anti-Sixer. It's because of the whole process thing, because not understanding tanking and not understanding the process. But everyone just put the Sixers, the Celtics in the finals, and they didn't even make it past the second round. So to go back to how the Sixers messed up Ben Simmons, is Sam Hinkie was doing the right thing, but because of Stephen A. Smith and the NBA not understanding tanking, they ran him out of Philadelphia. Then they had Jerry Colangelo, who hindered the process significantly. Then he got fired over this burner account nonsense. So the Sixers in 2018 hired Elton Brand, and he has done a terrible job as GM. Rusty Buckets already did a very good video explaining how bad of a GM, explaining why Elton Brand is not the guy. And I'm going to basically elaborate, because he's basically hurt Ben Simmons. So going into the 2018-19 season, the Sixers, were projected to have a starting lineup, I believe, of Embiid, Dario Saric, Simmons, Redick. Contrary to what Ryan Hollins thinks, J.J. Redick was a starter for the 76ers. I mean, literally, how's that? And I think Covington, and they had guys off the bench like T.J. McConnell and Amir Johnson, I think, Wilson Chandler, Landry Shaman, who they had just drafted. Now, on paper, that's a good team, but pretty much everyone was like, yeah, they won't finish better than Boston. To me, I think Elton Brand panicked. He wanted so desperately to win the East, and he made some short-sighted decisions that have hurt Simmons. He failed to understand that, and he's built a team that is great for fantasy basketball, NBA 2K, and not a team that's great for actual basketball. Alright. So in November 2018, he traded Dario Saric, Rocco, and Jared Bayless, and I think a draft pick to Minnesota for Jimmy Butler. And, at the time, I thought that was a good trade, but in hindsight, I was wrong. It was not a good trade because although Jimmy Butler is a fantastic player, there's a reason the Minnesota Timberwolves, just after making the playoffs, there's a reason he was available. He had become a diva. He had become a malcontent with the Timberwolves, and quite honestly, he'd become a malcontent, so that's why he was available. And you gave up to acquire Jimmy Butler, who was a free agent, so he ended up being a fucking rental. You gave up two adequate guys who can shoot in Saric and Covington. Saric shot like in the high 30s. I don't know the exact number, but the high 30s from the three-point line in the 2017-2018 season, and was young and only his third year in the NBA. And Covington, for a guy who was going to be a rental, that was not a good trade. Then in February 2019, for the trade deadline, they traded Landry Shaman, and I forget the other main player they traded to the Clippers for Tobias Harris. That's a move that's better, but even then, it's like your best player arguably is a center, so thus really you don't see a lot of great shooting centers. And your second best player can't shoot, as the media has harped on, and that's all they'll talk about when it comes to evaluating him as a player, instead of ignoring the millions of things he does well. And so now you have a clogged, yes, your starting lineup of Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, J.J. Redick, Tobias Harris, Jimmy Butler. Yes, that's a lethal starting lineup, but even in the basketball where talent matters most, and it's more than any sport about getting talent, you have to understand that there's roster cohesion, and it's people constantly sometimes don't understand, and they'll just knock a player, and they forget that sometimes system matters. Like, people like will bash the Tom Brady's supporting cast by talking about receivers making the white Walmart worker jokes, but they fit well in the Patriots system. Yeah, there's certain players who just fit better in a system, and that's what it's about. And how do you, with that lineup, you don't have a bunch of lethal shooters, and that just clogs the lane. And you saw that's a big reason they lost to Toronto. And hindsight, yes, if you were to make a starting five of Raptors and 76ers, you would have the only position where you would have a Raptor is a small forward. No disrespect to Kyle Lowry, but Ben Simmons better than Kyle Lowry. No disrespect to Danny Green, but J.J. Redick's a little better than Danny Green. No disrespect to, at that point, Pau Gasol. I'm a huge Grizzlies fan. I love Pau Gasol, but Joel Embiid's better. No better. To Pascal Siakam, Jimmy Butler's better. The only position was Kawhi Leonard, but the Raptors had more depth. They had more players willing to play in a system and more players playing as a team. Okay, and they had a better system and a better structure. All right, and it's coaching. Nick Nurse did a good job coaching, and it's like there was no room for the Sixers to shoot, and that's the biggest reason they lost that series. And that's the biggest reason Milwaukee lost that series, was them being able to crowd the lane, build walls, and not and take away guys like Giannis and Simmons who aren't very good shooters, who struggle, and that's try and expose a weakness, So to me, that's that's the problem. So, and then this offseason, they let J.J. Redick go. They allowed T.J. McConnell to go to Indiana. Okay, and they replaced them with, they signed Al Horford. And it's like, yes, Al Horford's a good player, but go into the starting lineup of Al Horford, Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, Josh Richardson, Tobias Harris. Not a lot of lethal shooting, and I hate to say it, I don't like it, but it's reality. Because of the Warriors, this is a soft jump shooting league. Yes, you can play great defense under that team, but where's the spacing? Where's the shooting? Your two best players, your star point guard is not a good shooter, and yet you've not built a team around him. You have built a team for him to fail because he can't shoot, and they can't create space for him to shoot. Put him on, and I'm not for the Sixers really trading Ben Simmons unless they have to, because kind of my thought is, yeah, you could replace him with shooters, but it's why couldn't you get him shooters? But anyway, let's say they and the Warriors made a trade. All right, they sent Ben Simmons to the Warriors, and they got D'Angelo Russell. Now, that would have been a good trade, though. Again, it's really, you could have helped Ben when he was there, but I digress. That's not the point. That would have been a win-win for both, because you got D'Lo, and now you got a guy who can shoot. And then you put Steph on the Warriors. You could just probably move Steph to shooting guard, Klay to small forward, and then, maybe have Draymond at power forward, and that takes responsibility off him. Maybe get a good shooting center and some depth. All right. With cap space, and then all of a sudden, draft some shooting, and then you give Steph, Ben Simmons and his lethal passing, the two best shooters in NBA history, and create spacing. That would be absolutely, that's scary. But the 76ers, they've not put a team around him. Yes, in NBA 2K, and in fantasy basketball, lethal starting lineup. But it's in today's NBA, in 2020 NBA, that lineup's only going to get you so far. I think, and you see why they've underachieved, why really they have the most stud lineup in the league, at least not in the league, but the Eastern Conference, and yet they're only 5-6 seed, and they've been basically the 4 through 6 seed. Why Boston, with not so much high-end talent and a lesser player from the 2016 draft in the guard position, why they have a better record, why Toronto They have a better record, despite really not having a true superstar, even though Pascal's emerging somewhat. You know why? Like they have basically the same record as Indiana and Oladipo. I don't exactly know the standings, but they've been basically with around the same record as Indiana, and Indiana didn't get Oladipo back until recently. So to me, it's just the 76ers. They have not built a team for Simmons. They've created a team with like no spacing, not a lot of shooters, and they've created a lineup I wish could work. But sadly, it doesn't work. So it will only get them so far in the playoffs because, right now they're the 6th seed. Let's just say, and this is a very likely outcome, Milwaukee 1 seed, Toronto 2 seed, Boston 3 seed, Miami 4 seed, Indiana 5 seed, and they're the 6th seed this year in playoffs. And they beat Boston, which I would love for them to beat Boston. That would be rough for the media, but they faced Toronto in the second round. While, yeah, they technically would have arguably the best player in the series, maybe even a better starting lineup. Expect Nick Nurse to do what he did to Giannis in the Eastern Conference Finals last year and build a brick wall. And without having any spacing whatsoever, Ben's, once again, his shooting woes will get exposed, and the Sixers will lose to the Raptors again. So the problem mainly with Simmons is beyond his control. The main problem is that the Sixers have not given him shooters. Okay. Yes, the starting line, alright, they haven't created enough shooting. And that's just, you've got, when your best player cannot shoot, like where was Kyle Korver? Danny Green was a free agent this offseason. Why didn't you try and get Danny Green? Why didn't you try and get Kyle Korver? Why not get shooters? Why not try and re-sign JJ Redick? It's ridiculous. And you have guys, it doesn't make much sense. And I'm going to say something, I know this is unpopular, but here's the thing. The Sixers would have been better off not firing Sam Hinkie, but Stephen A. Smith and the NBA not knowing what tanking is why he lost his job. Because, quite honestly, I don't know. And, of course, you just wonder if the Sixers didn't mess up Markelle Fultz's jump shot. So, anyway, to the point about Ben Simmons, I am a Ben Simmons fan, but I do feel like trying to be a little more fair to him and trying to analyze that. I agree, the fact he can't shoot is a huge problem. I think the Sixers most definitely beat Boston 2 years ago, and I'm pretty sure they beat Cleveland, and they would have at least made the Warriors sweat in the NBA Finals. They wouldn't have beaten Golden State, but they at least would have made them sweat, made them a little nervous, and the Warriors would have had to, buckle down. They could have maybe gotten them to a Game 6, and I do believe, if Ben could have had a shot, all right, they would have, they maybe A, don't have to give up so much shooting depth to get Jimmy Butler and Tobias Harris, but B, I believe they probably would have beaten Toronto, and then they could have certainly beaten Milwaukee, and with how banged up the Warriors were in the finals, really any team that came out of the East would have won the title. Any good team. Okay, any good team. Milwaukee, Boston, Toronto, Philadelphia, and maybe Indiana had Oladipo stayed healthy. All right, well, let's calm down. So, but to me, I agree it's a problem. I agree that under this current situation, the Sixers can't bring the city of brotherly love a championship. And, you have to maybe pray. Really, the Eagles are the only hope, Philly's only hope right now for a title. That ain't good. But to me, I think most of it's not really Ben's fault. It's the fact the Sixers have done a terrible job at supporting him. They've done a terrible job at building a roster around him. So that's what the point of this video is the Sixers have failed Ben Simmons. So thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe and comment. I would appreciate that. Thank you very much.